Have you ever found yourself quietly wondering about the shape of your future, about the unspoken question that hangs in the air for every married couple? What regrets will hurt the most if your spouse leaves first? It's a thought that few of us ever truly want to consider, a difficult and tender subject that we often push to the furthest corners of our minds. Yet it is also one of life's most certain and unescapable realities. When we choose to avoid facing it, when we put off those difficult conversations or postpone our deepest feelings for another day, we often leave ourselves profoundly vulnerable to a future filled with unspoken words, unresolved issues, and missed opportunities that can never, ever be reclaimed once our partner is gone. The truth is, the raw, aching pain of loss is inevitable. It is a fundamental part of the human experience. But the heavy weight of regret that so often follows can in many cases be prevented if we have the wisdom and the courage to recognize it in advance. In this video, we are not just talking about sadness. We are exploring 5 powerful regrets that many people face when their spouse dies first. Each one is born out of everyday choices, the things we don't say, the moments we take for granted, or the hard conversations we put off for another day. But hidden within these regrets is also an extraordinary and profound gift, the chance to see them now while you still have time to live differently, to love more openly, and to prepare your heart for whatever the future may hold. Stay tuned until the very end, because understanding these 5 regrets will not only help you cherish your marriage more deeply and profoundly today, but may also save you from carrying an unnecessary sorrow tomorrow. By the time we're finished, you will walk away with both the clarity and the courage to live with fewer regrets and with a love that is stronger than ever before. My name is Allie, and welcome to the Silver and Smart channel, where we believe that the later years of life are not a time of diminishment, but a time of incredible wisdom and purpose. Thank you for joining me on this vital conversation. The 5 regrets to avoid: not expressing enough love and appreciation, the unspoken words. One of the deepest and most haunting regrets people face when their spouse passes first is the sudden and profound realization of how many loving words were left unsaid. After years, sometimes decades, of sharing a life, it is all too easy to fall into the comfortable yet dangerous rhythm of routine. We share meals, handle household chores, or discuss family matters, all while forgetting to say the simple things that matter most. The quiet yet monumental phrases like, "I love you," "I'm so grateful for you," or "you make my life so much better." When those words are unspoken, their absence is felt sharply, leaving behind a deep longing that can never be filled once your partner is gone. The truth is, we often assume our spouse already knows how we feel. We believe our actions speak for themselves. But psychology shows us that verbal affirmation strengthens bonds, calms insecurities, and nurtures a profound emotional closeness that unspoken actions simply cannot. Words are not just sounds, they are evidence of love made visible. When they are missing, even if affection was felt, there remains a quiet ache of uncertainty. That ache can follow a surviving spouse for years, whispering a painful question: did they truly know how much I valued them? Think of a man I know named Julian, an 81-year-old man who lost his wife after 55 years of marriage. He shared with me that what kept him awake at night wasn't the occasional arguments they'd had, but the quiet, everyday moments when he didn't stop to thank her for small acts of care. The way she prepared his coffee exactly to his liking every morning, how she always kept his favorite blanket folded just so at the end of the bed, or the way she would touch his hand when they watched a movie together. Only after she was gone did he realize how much those little things meant and how seldom he had acknowledged them aloud. The regret of unspoken love teaches us a vital lesson: that affection must be expressed, not assumed. When you take the time to voice your gratitude or hold your partner's hand for a moment longer than you normally would, you are not only enriching their heart with your love, you are safeguarding your own from future regret. Love expressed today becomes the comfort you carry tomorrow.
Number 2, avoiding difficult conversations, the burden of silence. Another regret that weighs incredibly heavily on those left behind is the avoidance of hard but necessary conversations. Many couples, especially as they age, shy away from talking about topics like end-of-life wishes, financial matters, healthcare decisions, or even how household responsibilities will be managed if one partner is no longer there. The silence that surrounds these topics comes often from a place of deep love and protection. No one wants to upset the other or admit that life together is not, in fact, forever. We convince ourselves that talking about these things is a morbid act, when in reality, it is an act of profound love. Yet, when those conversations are skipped, the surviving spouse is often left overwhelmed, uncertain, and burdened with decisions they never wanted to make alone. Psychologically, avoidance feels easier in the moment. It provides a temporary sense of relief from discomfort, but it creates a long and painful shadow of regret later on. When the one you love is gone, the questions remain unanswered. What would they have wanted? Did I honor their wishes? Am I handling things the way they hoped I would? That lingering doubt can be as painful as the grief itself, leaving the surviving partner with a crushing guilt that could have been prevented with honesty, openness, and preparation. Consider a woman I know named Teresa, a 78-year-old widow who lost her husband suddenly. She confessed that she didn't know where the insurance papers were kept, what bills needed to be paid, or even what kind of memorial he would have wanted. Every decision felt like guesswork. And though she tried her best, she carried the deep fear that she might have let him down. That burden stayed with her long after the initial grief had passed. The lesson here is clear and beautiful. Love is not only about sharing joy, but also about preparing for difficulty together. When you open the door to these conversations, you give your spouse the gift of peace, and you give yourself the gift of certainty when the time comes. Facing the uncomfortable now is far less painful than carrying the regret of confusion later. Number 3, taking shared experiences for granted, the forgotten moments. One of the most heartbreaking realizations after losing a spouse is how many ordinary, everyday moments could have been turned into cherished, lasting memories, but simply weren't. Life together can feel so routine. Dinners at the same table, weekends filled with errands, evenings watching television. We get so accustomed to the rhythm of it all that we forget just how fragile and temporary these moments really are. When your partner is gone, those ordinary days suddenly seem extraordinary, and the chances you didn't take to create more memories weigh heavily on the heart. From a psychological perspective, humans adapt quickly to comfort. We assume there will always be another trip to take, another walk in the park, another evening to talk late into the night. We operate under the illusion of abundance. Yet when time is cut short, it's not the big vacations or the major milestones that we miss the most. It's the small, everyday moments we fail to treasure. The regret comes from knowing that a simple, profound joy was available and within reach, but was overlooked because we were waiting for a better time. Consider a woman I know named Teresa, the 78-year-old widow who lost her husband suddenly. She confessed that she didn't know where the insurance papers were kept, what bills needed to be paid, or even what kind of memorial he would have wanted. Every decision felt like guesswork, and though she tried her best, she carried the deep fear that she might have let him down. That burden stayed with her long after the initial grief had passed. The lesson here is clear and beautiful. Love is not only about sharing joy, but also about preparing for difficulty together. When you open the door to these conversations, you give your spouse the gift of peace, and you give yourself the gift of certainty when the time comes. Facing the uncomfortable now is far less painful than carrying the regret of confusion later. We've now covered 3 vital regrets that can leave a lasting ache when a spouse passes. As you reflect on these, I want to gently encourage you to think about one small change you can make today to love more openly and live more fully alongside the one you cherish. Remember, these aren't grand gestures. There are simple, conscious choices. If you're still with me, please comment "In Love We Live" below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you on your journey. Now, let's continue with our final 2 regrets.
4. Neglecting personal independence and identity. The lost self. Another profound regret that often surfaces is the painful realization of how much of your own identity was set aside during the marriage. It is a natural and loving part of a long union to lean on your spouse for companionship, for emotional support, for making decisions, and even for your daily purpose. But when one partner passes first, the surviving spouse may suddenly feel lost, unsure of who they are outside of the shared identity they had built together. The absence of personal independence can make grief even heavier, because it's not only the partner who is gone, but also the sense of self that was tied entirely to them. From a psychological standpoint, this regret grows from an imbalance. A healthy, thriving relationship is built on togetherness, but it also requires a sacred space for individuality and personal growth. When that balance leans too far into dependency, the surviving spouse can feel as though their foundation has been taken away entirely. The regret comes from realizing they didn't nurture their own growth, their own interests, or their own friendships while they had the chance. Consider a man I know named David, an 80-year-old man who had been married for nearly 60 years. His wife had managed all their social connections. She organized gatherings, visited family, and kept them engaged with their community. When she passed, David felt painfully isolated. He admitted he didn't know how to keep those relationships alive without her. His grief was compounded by a profound loneliness and the deep regret that he had never built his own independent network or kept out with his own friends. He had become so comfortable in this shared identity that he had forgotten to nurture his own. The truth is, maintaining your own identity is not selfish. It is essential. Exploring your interests, staying connected with your own friends, and continuing your personal growth not only enriches your marriage today, but also profoundly prepares you for the day when you may have to walk alone. By nurturing independence alongside love, you give both yourself and your spouse the gift of resilience, and you ensure that if one of you is left behind, you will be strong enough to stand on your own. 5. Failing to repair conflicts or let go of grudges. The weight of unresolved anger. Perhaps one of the heaviest and most painful burdens carried after a spouse dies is the crushing regret of unresolved conflict. Every marriage, no matter how strong, has its share of disagreements, frustrations, and moments of hurt. But when those wounds are left unhealed, they can linger long after your partner is gone, becoming a source of pain you cannot ever fix. The finality of death leaves no chance for apologies, no chance for forgiveness, and no chance to lay down grudges that suddenly feel meaningless in the face of loss. A final fight can become a final memory, and that's a truly bitter and unnecessary truth.
Psychologically, holding on to conflict may feel justified in the moment. We tell ourselves we'll work it out later, or we assume that time will smooth over the rough edges. Yet when later never comes, the regret is sharp and unrelenting. Survivors often look back and realize the argument itself didn't matter. What mattered was the missed chance to make peace, to say, "I forgive you," or even just to smile again before it was too late. Take the example of Audrey, a 77-year-old widow who shared that her last conversation with her husband had been an argument about something as small as a misplaced bill. She never, for a second, imagined that night would be the last chance to speak with him. After he passed, suddenly, the weight of that final fight became one of her greatest sorrows.
The pain wasn't about the bill. It was about the love she wished she had expressed instead of anger. The truth is, reconciliation is a choice we must practice daily. Letting go of grudges doesn't erase the past, but it frees both partners to live fully in the present. When you make peace while you still have the chance, you ensure that if tomorrow never comes, love, not conflict, will be the last memory you carry. The regret of unresolved conflict is a heavy one, but it's also one of the most preventable. As we close this video, take a moment to reflect on the 5 regrets we've explored together. Not expressing enough love and appreciation, avoiding those difficult but necessary conversations, taking everyday experiences for granted, neglecting your own independence and identity, and failing to repair conflicts or let go of grudges. Each of these can leave a lasting ache when a spouse passes first, but each also holds a clear and powerful lesson. There is still time to change. There is still time to love more openly, to prepare more wisely, and to live more fully alongside the one you cherish. The truth is, loss is an inevitable part of our lives, but regret does not have to be. By choosing to express your gratitude, by daring to have the hard talks, by savoring even the simplest of days, by nurturing your own spirit, and by making peace where peace is needed, you can soften the weight of grief and strengthen the bond you share while you still have it. These small choices today become the comfort and courage you carry tomorrow. So as you go about your day, ask yourself this one vital question. What small intentional choice can you make right now to ensure that if tomorrow never comes, you will have lived in love without regret? The answer you find may be the greatest gift you give both to your spouse and to yourself. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.